Okay, so picture this. You're driving down a street on Christmas Eve, and it's so decked out in lights. It's practically famous.
Okay.
That's the scenario we're diving into today.
Right.
Exploring how Tesla's full self-driving handled this iconic holiday scene.
Okay.
We're talking about Peacock Lane in Portland.
Right.
And we've got two sources to dig into.
Okay.
First, we have Tesla's own documentation for FSD v13.2.2.2.1. And we also have this great blog post from someone who actually took the drive using this version.
Awesome.
So for all of you out there who are wondering just how close self-driving tech is getting to handling real-world complexity,
Right.
this deep dive is for you, especially during busy holiday situations.
Yeah, Tesla claims this version, 13.2.2.1, is a huge improvement over the previous version 12.
Okay, but every tech update claims to be huge.
Sure.
What's really different this time around?
Well, in this case, they're saying the whole way the AI interacts with the world has undergone a major upgrade. It's not just like they added some bells and whistles.
Yeah. So there's real substance behind this claim.
Right, and the substance is in the details.
Like what?
Well, one standout is the integrated unpark, reverse, and park feature. So think about it. You pull up to your destination, and the car handles everything, finds the spot, parks itself perfectly.
Oh, wow.
It's like having your own personal valet.
That's got to be pretty convenient, especially when you're dealing with packed holiday parking lots.
Absolutely, especially around the holidays.
Right. Okay, but let's talk about this Peacock Lane drive.
Yes.
The blog post really paints a picture of it. Crowds, decorations. It sounds like a very unique set of challenges for a self-driving system.
Definitely. Peacock Lane on Christmas Eve is known for its pedestrian traffic. So it's really the perfect real-world test for FSD. The blog author raves about how smoothly the car navigated the crowds.
Oh, wow.
Slowing down and stopping gracefully to let families cross or admire the lights.
That's interesting because I've read that previous versions of FSD sometimes struggled with pedestrian detection, especially in crowded environments.
Yeah, that's true. But this blog post suggests that version 13.2.2.1 is significantly better at recognizing pedestrians, even anticipating their movements and adjusting its path accordingly.
Interesting.
This predictive pathfinding is a key element of making self-driving feel safer and more natural in a pedestrian-heavy environment.
Okay, but it wasn't all twinkling lights and happy pedestrians, right?
Or no.
What about the overall traffic situation?
Right.
Anyone who's driven during the holidays knows how crazy it can get.
You're absolutely right. But according to the blog, FSD handled the dynamic traffic like a pro.
Okay.
Stop-and-go traffic merging lanes, even those unpredictable drivers who seem to forget their holiday spirit.
Oh, yeah, know those guys.
This suggests the system's ability to handle real-time traffic complexities has seen significant improvement.
So we're seeing evidence here that FSD is getting better at handling real-world situations, especially those unique challenges that pop up during the holidays.
Absolutely.
But the Tesla documentation also mentioned some future improvements.
They did.
What caught your eye there?
One of the most exciting prospects is model scaling.
Model scaling.
To understand this, you need to know that the model is essentially the brain of the self-driving system. It's the artificial intelligence that processes information from the car's sensors and makes decisions. Now, Tesla is talking about tripling the size of this model.
So it's like giving the AI a massive brain boost.
Exactly. A larger model means more processing power and a deeper understanding of the world.
Wow.
They're also increasing the context length, which is like the AI's short-term memory.
So what does that mean in practical terms?
Think of it this way. With a longer context length, the car can remember more of what it has recently seen and experienced. So it's not just reacting to what's immediately in front of it, but also considering what happened a few blocks back, or even anticipating what might be coming up around the bend.
So it's not just seeing, but understanding and remembering.
Right. Tesla is aiming to create an AI that is more adaptable, more intelligent, and more capable of handling the nuances of the real world.
Speaking of nuances, they also mentioned something about audio input integration.
Yes.
And in the blog post about the Peacock Lane drive, the author talked about how the car recognized sirens.
Right.
Could these two be connected?
That's a very interesting point. Imagine FSD not only seeing and remembering, but also hearing and understanding the soundscape around it.
Okay, yeah.
This could mean reacting to sirens, honking horns, or even understanding the context of sounds like holiday music blasting from a house.
It's fascinating to think about how much more aware and responsive self-driving systems could become.
Yeah.
With that added layer of sensory input.
Definitely. And it raises some interesting questions.
Like what?
Like, for example, if the car can hear holiday music, could it adjust its driving style to be extra cautious in areas where people might be distracted by the festivities? Could it even learn to anticipate traffic patterns based on the types of sounds it's picking up?
Those are some really intriguing questions.
Yeah.
So it seems like FSD is not just getting better at navigating physical obstacles, but also starting to learn how to navigate the less tangible aspects of the human environment.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. And this deeper integration of technology with the human experience is exactly what makes this version of FSD so compelling.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
From understanding why this update is such a leap forward, to exploring the fascinating implications of features like audio input integration. But there's still so much more to unpack.
Absolutely. We've only scratched the surface of what this technology is capable of.
Right.
And what it might mean for the future of driving. Makes you wonder, how this technology might change not just how we drive, but how we experience the world around us.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially during something like the holidays.
That's such a good point. If you're not focused on, like, the mechanics of driving, you're free to just really soak in the holiday atmosphere.
Right.
All the lights, the decorations, even those cheesy inflatable snowmen.
Exactly. And imagine those like classic holiday road trips, Everyone in the car could actually enjoy the journey, playing games, sharing stories, or just relaxing and taking in the scenery.
Oh, that'd be nice.
No more designated driver stress either.
Yeah, that's huge. It could even change the way we experience events, too.
Oh, totally.
Like concerts, sporting events, even just going to the mall for holiday shopping.
For sure.
Imagine being able to enjoy the whole experience without worrying about parking or battling traffic afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget the accessibility aspect.
Oh, right.
Self-driving technology has the potential to give people who are unable to drive due to age, disability, or other factors a whole new level of freedom and independence.
That's a really important point. It's not just about convenience.
No.
It's about, like, opening up possibilities for people who might otherwise be limited in their ability to get around.
Absolutely. It could be a real game changer for so many people.
Okay, but before we get too carried away with the future,
Sure.
Let's circle back to some of the technical details we touched on earlier.
Okay.
You mentioned tripling the model size.
I did.
Can you, like, break that down a bit more for our listeners?
Of course.
What exactly does that mean?
So think of the model as the brain of the self-driving system.
Okay.
It's the artificial intelligence that's constantly processing information from all the car's sensors, the cameras, the radar, everything, and making decisions about how to navigate.
So it's the thing that's doing the thinking.
Exactly. Increasing the model size is like giving that AI a much bigger, more powerful brain.
So a bigger brain means more processing power.
Right. And more importantly, it means a deeper, more nuanced understanding of the world. It's like the difference between recognizing a stop sign and understanding the context of why you need to stop.
And you also mentioned something about context length.
Yeah.
What exactly is that?
So think of context length as the car's short-term memory.
Okay.
It's how much information the AI can consider at any given time. A longer context length means the AI can remember more of what it has recently seen and experienced.
Interesting.
Allowing it to make more informed predictions about what's going to happen next.
So it's not just about seeing what's right in front of the car.
Right.
But also remembering what happened a few blocks back, or even anticipating what might be coming up around the bend.
Exactly. And by combining a larger model size with a longer context length, Tesla is essentially aiming to create a self-driving system that is more adaptable, more intelligent, and more capable of handling the complexities of the real world.
It sounds like a pretty significant leap forward.
It is.
But with all this talk about AI and complex algorithms, it's easy to forget that there's still a human element to all of this.
That's true.
What about the role of the driver?
That's a really important point. Even with all these advancements, we're still in the early stages of self-driving technology.
Sure.
Tesla's current system is still classified as full self-driving supervised, which means drivers are still expected to remain attentive and be ready to take control at any moment.
So it's not about handing over the wheel completely.
Not yet.
But more about having a co-pilot that can handle many of the routine tasks of driving.
Exactly.
Freeing up the human driver to focus on the bigger picture.
Right. And as the technology continues to evolve,
Yeah.
the role of the driver will likely continue to shift as well.
Okay.
Perhaps we'll see a gradual transition towards more and more automation, but it's important to remember that human oversight and responsibility will likely remain essential for the foreseeable future.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the right balance between human and machine intelligence.
It is.
But let's get back to the accessibility topic, which I think is really compelling.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit more on how self-driving technology could benefit people with disabilities?
Of course. For many people with disabilities, driving is simply not an option.
Right.
They may have physical limitations that make it impossible to operate a vehicle, or they may have cognitive challenges that make driving unsafe.
Sure.
Self-driving technology could remove those barriers, giving them the freedom to travel independently and participate more fully in society.
It's amazing to think about the possibilities.
It is.
Someone who has never been able to drive could suddenly have the ability to go to work, visit friends and family, or just explore their community on their own terms.
Exactly. And it's not just about personal mobility.
Right.
Self-driving technology could also lead to more accessible public transportation options, making it easier for people with disabilities to get around cities and towns without relying on personal vehicles.
This is all incredibly exciting, but it also raises some important questions.
It does.
If self-driving cars become the norm, how will that impact jobs in the transportation sector?
Right.
How do we ensure that this technology is accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford it?
These are all critical questions that we need to be grappling with as a society.
For sure.
The transition to a self-driving future will undoubtedly have both positive and negative consequences.
Right.
And it's crucial that we have open and honest conversations about these challenges so that we can navigate them effectively.
Well said. It's clear that self-driving technology has the potential to revolutionize transportation.
Absolutely.
And reshape our world in profound ways.
Yes.
But it's also clear that this transition won't be without its bumps along the way.
That's true.
Okay, that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into Tesla's FSD v13.2.2.1.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of the update to the broader societal implications of self-driving technology.
For sure.
But we're not done yet.
No.
In part 3, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the potential risks and challenges associated with self-driving cars. Welcome back to our deep dive into Tesla's FSD v13.2.2.1.
Yes.
We've talked about the excitement of new features, but now let's shift gears a bit and consider some of the challenges and risks that come with handing over the wheel to AI.
Right.
So let's address the elephant in the room.
Sure.
What are some of the major concerns surrounding the safety and reliability of self-driving cars?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for software errors or malfunctions. These systems are incredibly complex with millions of lines of code. And even a tiny glitch could have really serious consequences, especially when you consider that we're talking about machines making decisions that could impact human lives.
Okay, so it's not just about the software itself.
Right.
What about the data that these systems rely on?
Well, self-driving cars depend heavily on sensors to perceive the world around them, cameras, radar, LiDAR. But these sensors can be affected by things like weather conditions, poor visibility, or even deliberate interference.
Oh, wow.
If the sensors aren't providing accurate data, the system's decision-making could be compromised.
So like a heavy snowfall or dense fog could potentially throw these systems off.
It's definitely a possibility. And then there's the challenge of unpredictable human behavior.
Oh, right.
Self-driving cars need to be able to anticipate and react to the often irrational actions of other drivers, pedestrians and cyclists. It's a very complex task.
Sure.
As human behavior can be incredibly difficult to predict.
Yeah, it's like trying to program a computer.
Right.
Understand the nuances of social etiquette on the road.
Exactly.
Not an easy task.
No, and we can't overlook the potential for cybersecurity threats either.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
As these systems become more connected and reliant on wireless communication, they become more vulnerable to hacking or malicious attacks.
Right.
Imagine the potential chaos if someone could remotely take control of a self-driving car.
That's a pretty unsettling thought.
It is.
So given all these potential risks,
Yeah.
what steps are being taken to, like, mitigate them?
Well, rigorous testing is crucial.
Okay.
Companies like Tesla are investing heavily in simulated environments and real-world road tests to try to identify and address potential problems before these vehicles are released to the public.
So it's a constant process of trial and error, refinement, improvement.
Precisely. And redundancy is another important factor.
Okay.
Many self-driving systems are designed with backup systems and fail-safes to ensure that if one component malfunctions, there's a fallback mechanism.
So kind of like a safety net in case something unexpected happens.
Exactly. But even with all these precautions, there's still like a level of risk and uncertainty. You know,
of course.
How do we as a society grapple with the ethical implications of this technology?
That's a big question.
It is. And I think it's vital to have open and transparent conversations about these issues. Conversations that involve not just engineers and policymakers, but the public as well.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to develop clear ethical guidelines and regulations for the development and deployment of self-driving technology. Regulations that address questions of liability, accountability, and, of course, safety.
Because ultimately, it's not just about the technology itself.
No, it's not.
It's about how we integrate it into our society responsibly.
Right.
We need to think about the potential impact on jobs, on infrastructure, on our very way of life.
You're absolutely right. The transition to a self-driving future requires careful planning and consideration of the potential consequences, both positive and negative.
For sure.
It's a complex challenge, but one that we need to face head-on if we want to harness the benefits of this technology while minimizing the risks.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
From
the excitement of those new features to the very real challenges and risks that come with self-driving technology.
Right.
It's clear that this technology is rapidly evolving.
Absolutely.
And it's up to all of us to stay informed, engaged, and involved in shaping its future.
For sure.
What final thought would you leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the key takeaway here is that the journey toward a self-driving future is just beginning. It's a journey filled with both promise and uncertainty. And it's a journey that we'll be taking together.